Good evening, Spring Mill families. I'm your proud principal, Calais Merritt, and I'm being joined tonight by Mrs. Kelly Brotherton, our assistant principal. We are going to meet tonight to share with you details of our reopening plan at Spring Mill and provide you with information in addition to the communication you have already received this week and earlier today. You should have received a one-page flyer in the form of a document, a PDF, that details a lot of the information that we will actually cover tonight. We will be using a PowerPoint presentation to work through many of the items that are listed within that document and to provide you with more information. We are so thankful to have you here tonight. We know that there are a lot of places that you could be and a lot of things that you could be doing, but we appreciate that you are taking time with us tonight to talk about how school will look when we actually reopen for in-person instruction. We will begin with our PowerPoint. I want to thank everyone who submitted questions earlier today, although we will not be able to answer all those questions in our time tonight because our time will be brief. We have made every effort to include many of the questions within this PowerPoint presentation, and we will be addressing many of them tonight. Additional questions that we cannot answer at this time will be provided in a communication to families in the form of an FAQ. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Okay, going to make sure that everyone can see my screen. Mrs. Brotherton, if you'll give me a thumbs up, that will indicate that our technology is working as it should tonight. All righty, we're going to begin by giving you the purpose of tonight, and it's really to explain how it is our mission to ensure safety and health for all of our students. And so then we are going to reopen with a plan that ensures safety, and we're going to share with you our intentionality that we're going to put forth in every aspect of our school day to make sure that your students are safe and that their health is our primary concern. If you watched the school board meeting last night, you noticed or are aware of the fact that we are going to reopen school when we can provide this according to a metric criteria. So the school board meeting last night, they voted that when we do return in person, we have to make sure that we can ensure this criteria is met for all of our students and families. We are going to ensure that our metric to reopen is at a 5% or lower positivity rate in Marion County, and that is what's required for all schools to reopen underneath this plan based on a 14-day rolling average. On this metric, once this metric is met, a 2-week preparation window will begin prior to kindergarten and first grade student start date. After first grade and kindergarten students have started and begun in-person instruction, then after a week, we will welcome second grade and third grade students. And finally, after a week of having kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade students, we will welcome our fourth and fifth grade students after those groups have started. Students will move back to all virtual instruction if the positivity rate increases above 6% with a 1 day of lead time in order to prepare our families for virtual learning. Parents and families, you have a decision that you can make concerning this plan. You will be deciding here in the upcoming weeks, you'll be sent a survey or some type of communication from the district where it will require you to decide whether you want to keep your students in this virtual learning platform or if you would like to choose in-person instruction. This decision does require a 9-week commitment. If you are unsure regarding your choice, the default for your family will be in-person instruction. If you notice in this T-chart that you see, we have listed some information regarding virtual and some information regarding in-person instruction. Virtual instruction, the district will provide the deadline, as I mentioned earlier, for this option, and it will be sent to all families. The Virtual Learning Academy may not be the exact same format that we are experiencing right now in our virtual learning. Students may not have the current teacher or the present teacher that they are currently working with during this learning model. Families will still have the opportunity to pick up daily meals provided at Spring Mill. For in-person instruction, the student day will mirror closely as it can to a typical school day. Students may not have their current teacher as their homeroom teacher, and this idea will be based upon student numbers and staffing. Breakfast and lunch will be provided and served in the classroom or cafeteria when social distancing can be adhered to.
As you can imagine, there are several expectations for both staff and students as we return for in-person instruction. All students and staff must wear a mask during the day unless in a designated mask-free zone or with indicated exemption as stated by a physician. All students and staff will practice social distancing with a minimum of 3 to 6 feet at all times. Desks will be spaced as far apart as possible in the classroom with a minimum of 3 feet. Increased hygiene practices will be put in place to ensure frequent hand washing occurs throughout the day. Specials will have a 1-week block scheduling rotation with students traveling to specials with the exemption of art and Spanish who will travel to the classroom. This is to help aid in exposure and in any necessary contact tracing. Our art and Spanish classes do not have their own classrooms, and that's why they will be traveling to the homerooms. Student arrival for those coming to school on the bus, and if you did tune into the board meeting last night, we are strongly encouraging car riding as much as possible. We know that's not feasible for all families, but it would definitely help in this situation in terms of exposure to other students. So for students arriving on the bus, when they're on the bus, they'll be seated spaced out as much as possible, and siblings will be seated together. Masks will be required by students, bus drivers, and bus aides. Each bus will be dismissed and allowed to enter the building through the assigned door. This is different than our typical bus arrival where we dismiss by grade level. Now we will be dismissing by bus. Since those students have been riding together on the bus, it makes most sense for them to enter the building at the same time so that they are not in contact with students on different buses. Staff will monitor social distancing throughout this process. And staff will also provide hand sanitizer to students as they enter the building. For bus dismissal, it will be the opposite of the AM arrival plan. So once again, when they're on the bus, students will be seated and spaced out as much as possible, and family units will sit together. Masks will be required. Grade levels will be dismissed individually to buses. Teachers will walk their individual class to their buses. So we will not be dismissing by bus, but by class, since students are cohorted throughout the day in their classrooms. They will do that as a class dismissing to the bus. Once again, during dismissal, staff will encourage social distancing and provide hand sanitizer as students leave the building.
Right. As it relates to student arrival and car pickup, which we've already mentioned, Mrs. Brotherton told you that if you watched the board vote last night, that the recommendation is that as many families as that can to use car as the primary mode of transportation this year, because it is the best way to ensure safety. But the car line will begin at 8:05 a.m. Students will walk directly to their classroom in a socially distanced manner. Spring Mill staff will not touch car door handles or assist students with exiting their vehicles. This will be a new procedure, and we will try to provide as many reminders as we can. It will often be our natural inclination to want to help you, but to ensure the safety of all of our staff and of our students, we will not be assisting children as they get out of their vehicles. Our staff will be positioned on the sidewalk, and we will be actively monitoring this arrival process. Spring Mill staff will provide hand sanitizer as students enter the building. As it relates to student dismissal, and those students that will be car riders, we will use the same traffic pattern that was implemented in the AM for the afternoon process. We ask every parent to please be patient with us and to extend us grace, because we do anticipate, as we work through the logistics of this plan and welcome students back, that our car dismissal and car lines will most likely be lengthy. Students will be staged in several distinctive locations throughout our building to promote social distancing, and that is to ensure that students are not gathering in places where they will be right next to other students. We will cohort them in the areas that you see listed here within this presentation. Once a family number is called, we will be using family numbers this year, which will be new at Spring Mill. Students will be directed by staff members to their vehicle outside. Every family that is a car rider will receive a family number, and you will be given a car tag that you can position in your rear view mirror or somewhere within your vehicle that can be readily seen by staff members. And those numbers will be called, and students will exit the building when their number is called and will be delivered to the person that will be picking them up that day. Students will be required, as we mentioned before, to open their own car doors and assist themselves in getting in their vehicles. Our staff, again, will provide hand sanitizer as students leave the building. Our hallways are a place where oftentimes students do gather, but we have put some procedures in place to ensure safety in this area. Masks will be required, and social distancing will not only be promoted, but it will be enhanced. We will make sure that our students are being safe in our hallways. Students will walk in a single file line, and when they need reminders to do this, as all children will, we will graciously remind them that it is for their safety and for the safety of others for them to walk in this manner. Students will be directed to walk on the right side of the hallway, following the border of the blue carpet.
Restrooms and water bottle filling. All students will utilize restrooms individually as needed. All classrooms have a sink and soap dispenser for frequent hand washing, so they will not need to leave the class to wash their hands. We are very grateful that all of our classrooms have their own sinks. Water fountains will remain off. Students may bring a reusable water bottle and utilize our new water bottle filling stations. Visitors. Unfortunately, no outside visitors, tutors, or other groups will be permitted into the building unless outlined in a student's individual education plan, for example, nurses, therapists, etc. And this includes parent volunteers and visitors. Any individual approved to enter the building must follow all Washington Township and Spring Mill requirements, including masks, social distancing requirements, and be symptom-free. Student health. Please review your child's medical needs with Nurse Jamie. The clinic will be used to distribute medicine and provide care for students as usual. All families will need to be proactive in monitoring the health of their students. Each family should assess their students' health each morning before sending their child to school. If students are sick for any reason, they should not attend. So please err on the side of caution, knowing very well that they just may be regular sick with a cold or strep throat or anything like that. Please do not send your kiddos if they're sick with anything. While at school, students displaying symptoms will be immediately placed into a designated isolation room where they will wait for parent pickup. The district requirement is that the parent must come within 60 minutes of the school contacting the parent.
I'm going to continue to talk about areas related to student health. A student may be out for up to 10 days if symptoms cannot be attributed to another illness, which means if they do not have a prescribed doctor's note that says that they have another condition, then they may be out for up to 10 days. Families will be encouraged to contact their family physician or healthcare provider for COVID-19 guidance. If a family member tests positive for COVID, or a student has been in direct contact with someone who has tested positive, whether that be in their home or in another area, the student will be required to quarantine for 14 days. And that is actually a requirement, not just of the district that we are actually reinforcing that, but that is from the Marion County Healthcare Department, where we get all of our primary guidance in these as it relates to health. Listed here, you will see the COVID-19 protocol, and that is listed here for all families to help you navigate through the different circumstances that you or your family might find yourselves in. And it gives you the guidance that the Marion County Health Department has provided information on so that you can keep yourself safe and act in accordance to these mandates. Our classroom space. We will be socially distancing in our classrooms because we know that it is the best way to keep our students safe. Students may be asked to clean personal spaces after use. Desks will be spaced 3 to 6 feet apart because that is the recommendation from the CDC, and all students will be facing the same direction. If you noticed on the flyer that was sent earlier today, the district has ordered clear desk partitions for each individual student desk to provide another level of safety. Students' materials will be held at their desk, so that includes their backpacks, coats, learning supplies. Those will not be placed in shared areas. Masks will be required at all times in the classroom.
In terms of meals for breakfast and lunch at school, the cafeteria will be utilized only for students for in-person eating in a social distanced environment. So typically we do allow parents to come in and visit and eat lunch with their child. Unfortunately, we will not be able to do that at this time. All meals will be individually packaged. The cafeteria food line will not be utilized since they are individually packaged meals. When the space in this area is not feasible, students will eat breakfast and lunch in their classroom. So within a specific grade level, There may be a few classes eating lunch in the cafeteria, and there may be a few classes eating lunch in their classrooms. Prepayment is strongly encouraged. If a student is paying cash, they will not be given change. The playground and recess time. Masks will be required during recess, and hand washing both before and after recess will be required as well. Classrooms will have assigned zones in which they will rotate daily. So the idea behind that is to continue to cohort classrooms together so that they're playing in a specified area of the playground. They will have an opportunity to visit different parts of the playground and different equipment based on the day. Equipment will be sanitized after each grade level use. If students become overheated, a mask removal zone will be available with only one student in that space at a time. For students who arrive to school tardy, parents will need to walk all tardy students to the front doors and enter the vestibule. Please utilize the intercom system to state the student's name and the reason for the tardy. Students will be buzzed into the building and will walk directly to class. Parents will not be allowed past the vestibule. All adults and students must wear a mask on Washington Township property.
Early student pickup. We know that there will be times that you might need to pick up your students early. And so we want to give you information that will help keep our students safe and give you the protocols that we put in place at Spring Mill. Families are asked to communicate an early pickup with the front office by 2 p.m. And I would like to stress that I know that sometimes there are circumstances that arise that are beyond our control, but when at all possible, when you know that your child is going to require a pickup that is before the end of the school day, we really need that information by 2 p.m. so that we can get that information to the teacher and make sure that we have the student in the right place for dismissal. The person picking up the student will enter the vestibule. The front office staff will communicate to the adult asking for the student's name. The adult will show the ID at the camera in the vestibule. And if you notice in the picture, it's showing you exactly what you would do if you were to enter our building at this time. Students will be released through the front doors to the waiting adult. Masks will be required and social distancing is expected. No adults will be allowed past the vestibule. Again, this is for safety. It's not that we don't want to welcome our families, and it's not that we don't want to greet you personally, but because of the fact that we are in a global pandemic, we have to act very intentionally to ensure the safety of all of our families and our students, as well as our staff members. Construction. This is one of the questions that came up today, and I'm happy to report to you that our current construction is not a factor in being able to adhere to the social distancing guidelines. The construction company has worked progressively, and we now actually have more spaces than what we had in the past, and we have more areas in which we can social distance students, classrooms, and staff members in a way that is directly in line with our protocols. Our newly created spaces provide more opportunities, and you will be very pleased once you're able to, at some point, see the building, and especially your students. I guess they will be seeing it first. You will be very pleased with the newly renovated spaces and the atmosphere that we have now at Spring Mill Elementary. It is very remarkable, and it looks very much different than what it has in years past. Please know that as a school community, we will respect and support whichever decision your family chooses at this time. We know that this decision is not easy, and we empathize with you because we know that a lot of factors go into this. we definitely miss our students, and we have had to start this year very non-traditionally. We know that additional information and guidance may emerge because this plan is fluid, meaning it is ever changing. And portions of this plan, even that we're even sharing tonight, might be altered to best meet those recommendations. We just ask for your continued patience and flexibility, knowing that we are all navigating uncharted waters, and our goal is to make sure that all of our students and staff are safe and to promote learning and to provide educational opportunities in the most equitable way that we can. And so as we wrap up this evening, we want to say to you that we want you to stay strong. We want you to stay safe. Most importantly, we want you to stay well. We thank you for tuning in with us tonight. We know that there may be additional questions that arise, and we will be doing our very best, Mrs. Brotherton and I, to answer those questions. We appreciate your feedback. Your voice matters to us, and your students matter to us. We just want to close by saying that even though this is an unconventional year, we are still very proud to be Bulldogs, and we will remain throughout this global pandemic and all year long, Bulldog strong. Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you for your attention. And thank you for your continued patience as we perform and conduct schools in a way that we haven't or that we're not accustomed to. And we are learning how to do in the best way possible. Thank you and have a great evening.